Nation and listen to the sound of your own heartbeat because that's what we're all about here on the Children of the Sun radio show. Good afternoon, everybody. Good afternoon and welcome to the Children of the Sun radio program broadcasting live from the turquoise waters of St. Croix on WSTX, the soul of the Caribbean, on 970 AM, amplitude modulated. 12:30 p.m. Atlantic Standard Time, Friday, the 15th day of August 2025. I'm your host, Ray Bratcher. I give sacred breathwork sessions here on St. Croix and around the world. Thank you for joining the broadcast. That's Bratcher, by the way, not Bradshaw. No relation to a certain Down Island governor. As you were just hearing, Hurricane Erin is staying on track to veer north of us. Probably get some tropical storm force winds or gust on possibly Saturday night, certainly on Sunday. But it looks like the brunt of the storm is bypassing us. And there's some good news out. Just some, just sort of like an observation. I saw where CNN has an article entitled "The 7 Most Authoritarian Steps Taken by the Trump Administration." And CNN. So CNN is starting to push back a little. And I saw where Germany, the government of Germany, is telling Israel that its West Bank settlements are illegal. And that is also highly unusual for Germany to criticize Israel in any way. You know, they've got the whole history, so they tend to just go along with whatever Netanyahu wants. But now even Germany is starting to get a little upset with what Israel's doing. So you got CNN and Germany. It's like the biggest mainstream, heretofore timid, tepid, go along to get along entities on the planet, and they're both starting to say, that's enough. We've had enough. So it's a little late to the party, a little too late, too little, but optimistically, from an optimistic point of view, makes me hopeful. There may be hope for us yet. But I want to turn from politics today and get a little metaphysical, a little spiritual. And I want to get into this idea that thoughts create reality. Have you heard about that? It's a pretty popular idea. Thoughts create reality. So I want to talk some about that today. But if you're familiar with this program, maybe not in the way you might expect from someone like me, someone who not only teaches breath work and Course in Miracles and non-duality, which all have an aspect of thought creates reality, but also actually studied more than 5 years with Leonard Orr, who was one of the earliest proponents of this idea and did at least as much as anyone else in the world to spread it. Because I'm going to tell you that it's not true, that it's wrong, at least in the way it's popularly understood. See, Leonard Orr first started talking about that idea in the late 1960s. Like for some of you guys, ancient history, medieval times. And a lot of people took it up and ran with it. But it wasn't until um, so we're turning today from politics, getting a little metaphysical, a little spiritual, and we're going to get into the idea of this idea that thoughts create reality. Um, so I was talking about that Leonard Orr was one of the earliest proponents and probably did more to spread the idea that thoughts create reality of anyone in the world. And I studied with him for a while. And he first started talking about that idea in the late 1960s, and a lot of people ran with it, but they kind of like, as soon as you borrow somebody else's idea, oftentimes it remains static and unchanged. And so it wasn't until the late 1990s that I met him and started studying with him. And he was always evolving, always working on and improving his ideas. So his thinking on thoughts create reality had really evolved quite a lot in those 30 years by the time I met him. And honestly, even at the very beginning of his teaching on that was never as simple as the simplified, watered down versions you usually run across these days. And I know that I can say that because I got to read some of his earliest writings on the subject from way back in the day, like unpublished seminar notes from public talks that he gave. And so I've also had my own direct experience with this idea that thoughts create reality. So I'm going to be speaking from all of that today. So if you're using the idea or even just interested in it, hopefully you'll find today's program helpful. And if you've never heard of it, I think we might just expand your mind some today. So that's the intro and preamble, and let's get to it. All right. If you are like a hardcore scientific materialist, then you're going to totally discount as a non-factor the role of consciousness in the physical universe. The idea that that thoughts you think in your mind can interact in any way with physical stuff, so that would make the idea that thoughts create reality would strike you as foolish and preposterous and absurd. On the other hand, if you're like a new agey metaphysical kind of person, or even just someone who reads a lot of self-help books, to you it's probably just common sense, something everybody knows. So maybe you heard it said that thoughts create reality, but it's not really true. But not in the way the scientific materialist thinks, not for the reason that the scientific materialist thinks thoughts create reality is not true, because he thinks that thoughts in your mind can have no connection to physical stuff. I mean, we actually already know from quantum physics that when when the wave function collapses, when the electron is not under conscious observation, it's just a wave function of probabilities and doesn't actually exist physically. And then when the scientist places his conscious attention on the place where the electron should be, the wave function collapses, and the wave function of probabilities shows up as a singularity, a discrete physical entity that we call an electron, pops into existence, only because the scientist placed his or her conscious awareness and attention on the on the on the electron. So in that sense, the scientific materialist is wrong when he says that thoughts cannot create reality because the thoughts in your head cannot interact with the physical universe. But that's not why I'm saying that thoughts create reality is not true. It's not true in the way that it's popularly understood. It's actually probably better to say that it's a partial truth. And here we get into the nuances of the difference between the simplified, watered down version of the idea that thoughts create reality and the more advanced teachings about this that Leonard Orr had, and evolved into, and that I have come into from my own direct experience. Your thoughts do create reality, but only your reality as you selectively perceive and interpret it. I'm going to say that again. Your thoughts do create reality, but only your reality as you selectively perceive and interpret it. So it's like your own personal dream or mirage. In a sense, it's real. Mirages are real. Mirages exist. Mirages are a thing, right? But it isn't reality with a capital R. There really isn't a lake in the middle of the desert. Your thoughts and the feelings and emotions that go along with those thoughts, because this is not an isolated thing. Thoughts, feelings, and emotions are a package deal. So your thoughts and the feelings and emotions that go along with those thoughts become like a magnet for the people, places, situations, experiences, etc., that will prove those thoughts true. Your thoughts, feelings, emotions become like a magnet, magnetizing to you the people, places, experiences, situations that will prove your thoughts true. the people, places, situations, and experiences that are a match energetically for those thoughts and feelings. It's like your thoughts and feelings have a certain energy frequency, and the situations, again, talking about quantum theory, the quantum and the quantum consciousness, the probability wave function, any kind of probability, the wave function can collapse and become a concrete reality. So all kinds of potential scenarios out is like in an infinite number of potential scenarios out there in the quantum, and your thoughts, feelings, and emotions of a certain energetic quality are going to resonate with the potential probabilistic scenario in the quantum of the same energy or frequency. And so you collapse the wave function, and that becomes your reality. Your reality. Your reality that you selectively perceive and interpret. Because it's not just what's out there, it's also how you take what's out there. So the people, places, situations, and experiences that will prove your thought true, that are a match energetically for the thought and feeling that you're having, will be magnetized to you, and then you selectively perceive those people, places, situations, and experiences, seeing what you want to see, not seeing what you don't want to see, selective perception. And then after doing that, you interpret the perception how should I say this? I'm looking for the words. Um, you interpret your perception, that perception, through your own set of personal filters. So your thoughts and feelings and emotions magnetize to you the people, places, situations, and experiences that will prove your thoughts true. The people, places, situations, or experiences that are a match energetically, high vibe, low vibe, etc., happy and joyful and peaceful, angry and fearful, for example. And then you selectively perceive, seeing what you want to see in a thumbnail, seeing what you want to see, not seeing what doesn't fit into your preconceived notions. And then you interpret those perceptions through your own set of personal filters and conclude that's how life is, or at least that's how my life is. You think you're just being logical and rational, drawing a conclusion from the evidence right there in front of your face, not realizing you're the one who put that evidence there in the first place, saw only what you wanted to see, and then made up a story about what it was you were looking at. Just so that you could reach the conclusion you wanted to reach based on your beliefs, which aren't really your beliefs, since you never chose them. They were imposed upon you by others through childhood conditioning, cultural conditioning, and whatever, and became your beliefs, which you accepted without question because the idea that you might have a choice wasn't even on the menu, right? So whenever you have negative, basically unloving, I get in trouble when I do this sometimes. Negative thoughts and emotions, anything that you would consider to be a negative thought or emotion, you could just say it's unloving. It's not loving. Ultimately, that's the foundation of all negative thoughts and feelings. So whenever you have negative, basically unloving thoughts and emotions, whether unloving to others or unloving to yourself, that will manifest in your outer experience as people, places, situations, and experiences that you'd probably rather not have. While positive, loving thoughts and feelings manifest harmonious outer experiences of peace and happiness, appreciation, abundance, where things just kind of seem to work out well. It's a Hermetic law about this. As within, so without. As it is within your consciousness, inside your skull, which apparently, not really, but that's what the Hermetic law is talking about. So without. As it is, if you're peaceful and harmonious within, you're going to have peace and harmony without, outside, in the outside world. And of course, most people are a mishmash of positive and negative thoughts. So their apparent external life experiences are a mishmash of good and bad as well. Oh, and of course, in reality, with a capital R, there are no others. So you're really always just being unloving to yourself. Why do you do that? Why do you do that? Why are you unloving to yourself? You might want to take a look at that. And pro tip, every bad experience can be reframed as a learning opportunity. Learning opportunities are a good thing. So then you can allow yourself to have positive thoughts, like say, for example, gratitude and appreciation, of positive thoughts about your learning opportunity, and get off the thought train to Negativeville. All right. So I'm basically just kind of giving you a thumbnail description of how the mirage works, how you create the mirage, selectively perceive and interpret the mirage in accordance to the outcome you, whether you're conscious of it or not, previously pre-selected as desirable. Even if it leads to bad experiences for you, pain and suffering, it's desirable because it proves that you're right. And it's really important for egos to be right. But it's still a mirage, it's still a dream. It is not reality with a capital R. So the next part of this thought creates reality thing is understanding that there is, after all, a real reality. Reality with a capital R. And you don't even have to go searching for it because it is right there inside you. In fact, it is you. It is who you are at your core, in your deepest, most essential nature. Now, people hear stuff like this all the time, and it just sort of goes in one ear and out the other, I feel. I watch people at seminars and workshops, both mine and other people's. I belong to some spiritual support groups, and I can see this ocean of words going out over glazed eyeballs, and I feel like it's been said so much it's kind of lost meaning. And so I really want to take the time here to slow down and let you really hear me, feel me, get this. The real reality is inside you. It is who you are at your core, in your deepest, most essential nature, like your essential nature, not essential, meaning after everything non essential is stripped away. You take away everything else, leaving only the essential. What is that? Before you added your biography, before you added your story and your narrative about your life, before you add thoughts, it's what is there when the thoughts have slowed down or stopped in the space between the thoughts. Another way to come at this, think about when you were a child, okay? Now, think about when you were a teenager, okay? Now, think about yourself now. In terms of biography, education, skills, jobs, relationships, etc., 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 a lot has changed. But the you, capital Y, capital O, capital U, the you that was there as a child was also there when you were a teenager, and it is still there today. And if you really let all the narratives and arguments and what ifs and he said, she said go, and just feel yourself, feel your essential self, your essential, just feel yourself. And you think about it, you realize it's the same self. When you were 4 years old, looking at yourself in the mirror, you had a sense of self, and now you can be 40 years old looking at yourself in the mirror, and it's the same person looking back at you. It's the same sense of self. That core basic sense of self remains unchanged. That you never changes. That essential self is eternal. You are eternal. In reality, with a capital R, you are eternal, never ending, never changing. Uh, yeah, let me just pause here for a second to say that you need to hear this message with the heart, intuitively. Um, don't try to grasp this intellectually as a concept. That's mind work, and mind will never be able to grasp this because this came before mind. This is what makes mind possible. Mind arises out of this. This, you, is the spaciousness out of which arises all your thoughts and concepts and feelings and emotions and the people, places, situations, and experiences that you are choosing to manifest and create. But what you also need to know is that for many people, actually for most people, that choice is no longer a choice. Initially, it was a choice, but then it went on autopilot, we could say. And the same choice, the same patterns and cycles just keep repeating over and over again, endlessly, year after year, even lifetime after lifetime. which also isn't really true since time doesn't exist. Everything, all of it, is only happening now because now is all there is, which is great because it means that if you don't like what's manifesting in your apparent external reality in terms of your life situation, you can change everything now. You, capital Y, capital O, capital U. You can change everything now, not the person. The person, the small, conditioned mind entity, has no conscious choice because they have completely identified with their thoughts. They think they are their thoughts and can't tell the difference anymore between themselves and their thoughts, between themselves and the voice in their head. They've lost touch with that sense of spaciousness, which makes choice possible because it allows you to pull back from those thoughts and question them, to observe them and see if they serve you and serve humanity too, for that matter. So it's kind of like this, kind of, because this now we're getting into non-duality, and language is inherently dualistic. So it's actually impossible to talk about this. So what I'm going to give you now is a story which tries to point to the truth, but can never tell you the truth. You can only find the truth for yourself through your own intuitive heart. But I'll go ahead and give you the story as a pointer anyway. So once upon a time, um, your true and essential nature, the you that is the eternal, and infinite spaciousness out of which all else arises, is unity consciousness, is one, is this. This is timeless, formless awareness. This is all there is. Everything that appears is this appearing as that. Everything is consciousness. This is conscious energy, that is to say, energy that is conscious. Conscious energy which has the quality of unconditional love. Some people call this God, but this is much more wonderful than the average person's constipated ideas of God. So, to continue the story, one day you wondered what would it be like to be apart from the one, to be your own independent entity, independent of the one. In that moment, you chose for duality. You chose for separation, to be separate from the one, to be separate from your brothers and sisters. That choice automatically gave rise to mind with its dualistic and separative and separating thoughts, interpretations, projections, and perceptions, which in turn automatically created the reality, small r in quotes, the reality of a universe filled with separate objects, including other separate people, which automatically gave rise to fearful thoughts, i.e., Is this a threat? Quickly followed by judgment, blame, resentment, anger, and all the other unconscious conditioning and programming. Most people are running on autopilot without choice. But there is also a silver lining. That original primordial choice did not just create separate other people, it also created the separate you. You're apparently separate physical human body. Now, a lot of spiritual teachings like want you to put down the human body, like see it as something you're supposed to conquer and discipline and escape. Basically, there's a lot of religious people can't wait to die so they can escape their body. I see it differently. My direct experience with the way that thoughts create reality is I've come to realize that the body can be a map. You don't need to ignore it and disregard it. You can use it as a useful tool. Even though you're apparently separate physical human body, it's not reality with a capital R either, like everything else in the mirage. But you can understand it and use it as a tool, as a metaphor, a dream symbol to help you navigate your way back to truth. In other words, understood spiritually, metaphysically, and maybe most importantly, intuitively through the heart, your physical body is giving you all kinds of clues and insights, and therefore can be a very helpful tool of navigation. For example, one example, how does your dualistic mind manifest on the level of form in your physical body? How does your the mind, which is not physical, so you've got this mind that is dualistic, trapped in separation. Your mind thinks you are in a universe of separate objects experiencing fear. So how does your non-unity, not one with everything, but apart from everything, so dualistic, how does your dualistic mind manifest physically in the physical universe? As a brain with two hemispheres, the left and the right. Not only that, those two hemispheres each have their own completely different and separate way of seeing things, don't they? Pretty much the definition of duality. Your mind shows up as why does our brain have two hemispheres? Why couldn't it just be one orb? That would make more sense and be more efficient. Instead, we've got two hemispheres that see things in a completely different way from each other. Your brain shows up as dualistic to reflect on the physical level the dualism of your mind. So even though it's just a dream, it turns out that dream has rules, that there are correspondences between the dream and reality with a capital R. So not some recent, not recent, in terms of the sweeping arc of world history, science has discovered that the electromagnetic field of the heart is much, much stronger than the electromagnetic field of the brain, that the heart has neurons, just like the brain does, and that the heart talks to the brain at least as much as the brain talks to the heart. So here's your physical body giving you the next clue. It would appear that the heart, as a center of consciousness, is more it's more important than we realize. It is not just a pump, a mechanical pump. It is actually apparently some kind of center of consciousness. And so just like with the brain having two hemispheres, what does that mean? With the heart being a center of consciousness, what does that mean? How do we use that? What's the conclusion from that? So the heart appears to be a center of consciousness at least as important as the brain, where the mind seems to reside. So we got the brain on the form level, and the mind on the non-form appears to reside there. I say appears, and I say seems, because remember, all of this is an illusionary projection of mind and is still inside mind. But remember also that mind is inside this, you, which is also called Christ consciousness or Buddha consciousness or formless awareness or God or whatever name you want to use. This doesn't care what you call it and isn't going to judge you for that. And since mind is still inside, so to speak, the connection is never lost. So, on the level of form in the illusionary dream body, the correspondence with reality with a capital R is that connection, which can never be lost, shows up in the heart, specifically the heart chakra. On the level of apparent form, it's in the heart chakra where you are choosing between oneness and duality. And you may not like to hear this, but the truth is, you are constantly and chronically choosing for duality instead of oneness, choosing for separation instead of unity, choosing fear over love. And every time you make that choice, you make the apparent universe of separation and fear, struggle and conflict, impermanence, disease, and death. But that connection, which can never be lost, the connection with oneness, with unity, with love, with the conscious energy that is unconditional love, is that connection is also in the heart chakra. And you can choose it whenever you want. And when you make that choice, you make the new earth. Um, By the way, this is why in sacred breath we breathe in and out through the heart chakra in the next to last step. Before that, in sacred breath, instead of breathing in and out through the heart chakra, you breathe in through the pineal gland and out through the heart chakra. So we're breathing, we're still exhaling through the heart chakra, but the inhale at first is through the pineal gland. And note, the pineal gland, not the third eye chakra. In through the pineal gland in the physical body, out through the heart chakra in the energy body. So it simultaneously unites the physical body with the energy body, as and at the same time the mind with the heart. Very important. It is that unified, integrated wholeness which then breathes in and out through the heart chakra, opening the portal to higher dimensions of consciousness and eventually unity consciousness if you choose. But it's a more informed choice, as they say, less unconscious. And even in everyday life, when our thoughts subside, when our feelings and emotions are at peace, when all the noise of the small conditioned person has quieted down, that's when we can hear the still small voice within. The voice for unity consciousness and unconditional love. The voice for you. That's when awareness is aware of itself. And the timeless watcher can pull back from the conditioned thoughts and observe them, creating the space between you and those thoughts so that you're no longer identified with them, identifying yourself with them, trapped in them. But now you have the choice to stop running on autopilot, the choice, in a word, to be free. So, like a good practice in everyday life for everybody, whether you're taking sacred breath or not, is first of all to realize that just because you have thoughts doesn't mean they're true. I came up with a bumper sticker a while back. Don't believe everything you think. In fact, if you question your thoughts, most of the time you'll find that they aren't really true. That's called self inquiry, by the way. And just because you have emotions or feelings doesn't mean they're true. Following our thoughts down whatever rabbit hole they're trying to lead us is just a habit. Wallowing in our negative emotions is just a habit. If you want to be free, you have to learn how to break habits. So, um, if if you find that your mind is racing, you're being overwhelmed by negative emotions, your mind is racing with anxious thoughts. These days, I, I can't imagine why that would be the case. I can't imagine why everybody wouldn't just be like on hunky dory street right now. Beyond baffling to me why people should be anxious and worried in these times. But just in case your mind is racing and you are being overwhelmed by negative emotions, maybe your mind is racing with anxious thoughts or racing with fearful thoughts or hateful thoughts or burning up with anger thoughts, or really just any kind of thought that is making you feel bad, because negative thoughts are always accompanied by negative emotions and feelings. The practice is to stop what you're doing. Now, if you are in a place where you can join me physically, then by all means do so. If not, you can catch a recording of this later. Um, so you just stop what you're doing and close your eyes and take 3 conscious breaths. By conscious, I simply mean you place your attention on your breath and you take 3 breaths, 3 inhales and 3 exhales, as slowly and as deeply as you comfortably can. It's three slow, deep breaths with your eyes closed, and be thinking about your breathing. Don't be reviewing what you're going to have for lunch later. Place your thinking, your awareness, your attention, your consciousness, everything, get focused on your breath. You've only got to do this for 3 breaths. It's easy. Anybody can do it for 3 breaths. Close your eyes, take 3 slow, deep breaths, and focus on your breath. Then, after your 3 deep, slow breaths are done, you keep breathing. Keep your eyes closed. Continue to breathe slowly and deeply, but it doesn't have to be as slow and deep as you can. It could be closer to normal. Whatever, or you could keep going slow and deep, whatever feels best to you. And at the same time, say to yourself, I know that these thoughts and emotions cannot be true because I feel bad. And it is God's will that I experience only perfect peace and joy. Since only God's will can be true, I choose to think with God and discard these meaningless thoughts and emotions. Then, so what does that mean? Only God's will can be true in reality with a capital R. In reality with a capital R, you are not separate. You are one with this, and you can only experience perfect peace and joy in reality. Suffering is always an illusion. Feeling bad is always an illusion. So if you're having fearful thoughts, anxious thoughts, anger thoughts, whatever, any kind of thought or emotion that causes you to feel bad, that is your body telling you that you are glitching, basically. Your body is showing you as a navigation tool how to get back to reality by showing you that the thoughts and feelings that are making you feel bad cannot be true because they go contrary to God's will, which is your will, which is reality with a capital R, that you experience only perfect peace and joy. Since only that can be true, then the fear, anger, hate, whatever, must be a hallucination. In other words, meaningless. So I choose to think with God and discard these meaningless thoughts and emotions. Someone asked Nisargadatta Maharaj once, does the personality ever arise in you? And he said, of course it does, but I see it once it's illusion and discard it. Just like when I saw through separation, that separation is not real. And then every time any kind of egoic trigger would try to come up, no matter what form it took, I saw that the underlying foundation of it was always the ego trying to get me to believe in separation, trying to get me to think I'm separate, to like, I don't know, go along to program again, fall for it again. And but it's like it's telling me you are separate, but I knew from direct experience that I'm not. It's like I knew it better than I knew my own name. It was like just, and so it I just had no interest in it. I never took the bait anymore. I had no, which is completely meaningless to me. So it's like a meaningless thought and emotion, the idea that you can be separate. And so that's what it means to discard, throw away these meaningless thoughts and emotions. So after that, then the next step is you place your awareness on your heart chakra. Shift your attention to your heart chakra. It helps to physically place your hand on your heart to really focus on your heart chakra and feel your breath going in and out of your heart chakra as your chest rises and falls. Then imagine your heart chakra filled with love. Maybe see the word love in your heart and feel the feeling of love in your heart. Then feel your heart chakra opening and becoming the portal to higher states of consciousness while breathing and feeling and focusing on your heart chakra. You know what? So let's like, I think I've covered enough of the explanatory basics. So let's actually do this now. So we'll close our eyes and take 3 conscious breaths as deeply and as slowly as we can, placing our attention on our breaths. Continuing to breathe slowly and deeply. I know that these thoughts and emotions cannot be true because I feel bad, and it is God's will that I experience only perfect peace and joy. Since only God's will can be true, I choose to think with God and discard these meaningless thoughts and emotions. Now we place our awareness on our heart chakra, eyes still closed, placing our hand on our heart. Feel your breath going in and out. of your heart chakra as your chest rises and falls, expands and contracts. Imagine your heart chakra filled with love. See the word, see the word love in your heart. Feel the feeling of love in your heart. Feel, feel your heart chakra opening, 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 becoming the portal to higher states of consciousness. Breathing and feeling and focusing on your heart chakra. Know that you are in contact with the connection which can never be lost. And say to yourself, I am greater than this situation. Because I am the infinite spaciousness out of which this situation arose. I bless all beings involved, including myself, with compassion, love, gratitude, and appreciation. I am greater than this situation because I am the infinite spaciousness out of which this situation arose. I bless all beings involved, including myself, with compassion, love, gratitude, and appreciation. And then feel the contracted and constricted negative energy become expansive and flowing, healing, positive energy. Then say, as I rest now in the cave of the heart, I am peace. I am love. I am joy. I am oneness. The resolution of this situation, healed and transformed, now arises out of the infinite spaciousness that I am, and in perfect peace and certainty, I look forward to its manifestation. Peace, peace, peace. And then open your eyes. But keep your hand on your heart and look around at your world with the eyes of the heart, not the eyes of the mind. Blessing and sharing, extending love to all you see. Do this for as long as you like, as long as you can, in terms of your practical life situation, as long as there's no sense of strain. And when you're ready, slowly lower your arm while saying yes, yes, yes. Huh. And that's basically it. This is a practice anyone can use in your everyday life, especially these days when so many have so much to deal with. And to become more aware of your heart consciousness, bringing more light into your life, the world, and humanity, and to become more centered in heart consciousness instead of exclusively in mind consciousness. We don't like eliminate mind consciousness, but we're getting to the place where we realize exclusive mind consciousness is going to kill us all. And you don't have to use these exact words either. You can use your own words. This is just like an example to give you an idea of the general way it works. And like, for example, at the end where I say yes, 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 um, you could also say amen, 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 which technically it is exactly what amen means. It means yes. But for a lot of people, it has like a negative connotation. It means like surrender to the will of God, have it doing what you're told, and especially in connection with funerals. It was the will of God that my friend die, which it's all kind of a bummer and kind of depressing. And we want this needs to end on a positive up note. And in the English language, it's hard to find a word more positive than yes. So I end it yes, yes, yes. And so if you're somebody that amen has negative funeral associations, you don't want to use amen, amen, amen. But if you are somebody that for you, amen, amen, amen means yes, and it's positive and joyful and exuberant, and you want to say that because you feel like it makes the whole meditation more powerful for you, then by all means, say okay in my book. Um, I'm talking to people other than just you. I have a lot of different kinds of people listening to me, and I have to bear in mind how other people will take words. Like when I say God, a lot of people get a picture of an old white guy with a long flowing beard on a golden throne. And obviously, that's not what I mean by the word God. So I just have to bear in mind different people hear different words in different ways. And when you're talking to somebody, that's something to bear in mind. Also, a lot of times conflicts happen because the person receiving the words did not receive the words the person speaking the words thought they were sending. So you always gotta just try to place yourself in the other person's shoes from time to time. But yeah, so make it your own words. If amen is better for you than yes, feel free. Go ahead, feel free. Make it your own words. Uh, I guess we went kind of deep today, but honestly, it's nothing you don't already know on some level. And if you approach it with the intuitive, open heart chakra, not the mind, as I said earlier, it will make perfect sense and you will remember what you've forgotten. I hope it was helpful. That you find it beneficial. Um, as I say, if you want to listen to the recording at another time of day when you are more able to close your eyes, you could find it on Facebook, WSTX Radio's Facebook page, my Facebook page, Ray Bratcher. I'll probably share it to Sacred Breath. Eventually, it might be on my Breathe Only Love YouTube channel. And so that you could listen to it at your leisure, stop it and pause it and play it again. Um, sacredbreath.com for all things Sacred Breath. So thanks for listening. I hope this was helpful, beneficial. Thanks for sharing the time with me and the program. And thank you so much for your interest in the new consciousness, the new paradigm, and the new earth. Have a beautiful weekend and remember to get out in nature. Love you all. See you next Friday. Last time you